Alright, so we're going to continue on with our Cabochon that we started, for me, yesterday. And I'm not going to do another set of beads, okay? I'm going to continue on as if I was getting ready to finish my beadwork. So it's going to be kind of small, but it's still cute. So, some people use the plastic. Some people use the metal. And that is actually my preferred rhinestone. And I think it is actually how my earrings are known for, is because this is like the only rhinestone I ever use is this. So I'm going to go ahead, and because I tied off both of my cords yesterday, I'm going to get rid of the one because I don't need two to tie down rhinestone. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to go to the one that I pulled through. I'm going to do so much better today keeping this in the frame. And then I'm going to take, and this is normally on a spool, but unfortunately my spool broke on me, so it's kind of just a big clump of rhinestones. So I'm going to feed it around, get my end, and I'm going to be paying attention to where my string is coming out. And I'm going to line up my rhinestones so that the first separation between the rhinestones lines up with my string. And then I'm going to come through, just like we were anchoring down the beads, we're going to anchor this down the same way, but because this will be my final row until I get to my edging, I need to make sure that I don't have my thread coming straight down. I need to angle it backwards. I'm going to actually angle you guys down differently so that you can actually see what I'm doing. But yeah, the first two are getting tacked down, and then I'm going to go every two rhinestones. So the same thing as anchoring down the bead line is going to be the same for this.
So every two until I get to the last two, and then I will be doing each one individually. And you'll see how this quickly transforms when you add the rhinestone. So you'll see me struggling a little bit. It's when I'm poking through on the little piece that holds the rhinestones together.
So you gotta just kind of keep moving your needle until you get through. So I'm not going to tack this down because see I have a tilt going on because I need to cut these off. So I'm just going to take it, and you have to kind of guesstimate. You can push it together. Will it fit? No, you can see it's kind of getting round right here, right? So that means I'm going to need to stretch it. So you can either push it or you can stretch it however it's going to fit in that space. It'll fit one way or the other. So I'm going to stretch mine, so I'm going to bring my scissors just right to the middle of that, and just with the tip of my scissors, they cut super easy. So if you see, now it fits perfectly. And if it's not, if there's a little space there, you're going to pull it a little bit because these actually have just a piece of wire running through them. And so you can actually condense them and you can pull them out to a point. So remember, I'm on my last two, so I'm going to tack down this one and I'm going to tack down this one. I remember watching YouTube videos and I would watch how people's hands would move. It was like how they held their strings, how they poked their needle through, what they did with the offhand, and it made a difference to me. Their voices somewhat, but mostly I just need to see it to be able to do it. But I gotta see the good and the bad. And I watched a lot of people messing up, you know, pulling their string too tight or missing their placement altogether. And that actually helped me a lot. So now you see we are here. And this is where they are separated. So we're gonna fix that here in just a second. And so we're gonna actually come through and we're going to tie off the same way we tied off the other row. So I'm going to go through a bit of the pellon underneath one of the anchor strings. And then I'm going to come through my loop twice. Okay, gently tug it down and then give it some. Alright, so now I'm going to cut that off because that is my end point. Got it pretty close. Alright, so this is what we're working with now. Still cute, now it's nice and shiny. And we can see that these are not sitting quite right, right? They kind of poke up, they just don't stay put because the two ends cannot be tied down. And that's when our trusty E6000 comes back into play. So here's our E6000 we're using. I'm not opening my new one until I need it because these will harden over time. So you don't open another glue until you must open it. So now I'm going to cut around this, and this is why we have to make sure that we're placing our threads more at an angle so that we're underneath our row and not to the side of the row, because we will end up cutting our threads and having to redo it again. So you can do it. I used to do it this way. I used to like just kind of line it up and follow and make sure I wasn't touching my threads, but because of how it is now, I can. I leave a tiny amount of the pellon around because that is actually where my edging will sit for simple edging. And so if it's off, if it's not the perfect shape, you can go and clean it up later. We're just getting this off to make it easier to get to that rhinestone. So I have a little bit of bumpiness. But you have to be really careful not to cut your string. And a lot of that edging will hide any of these imperfections. That's good enough. Alright, so then I'm going to double check, and all of my strings are well within my little boundary here. You can see I actually have some more I can go right here. And then I'm going to take this E6000, just a tiny bit. Clean off my thing a little bit. Like I said, it gets a little hard. I'm going to find where my ends are. And I'm going to take a little drop, just a tiny drop, and I'm going to bend it back and smush this in there. Okay? Boom. And you can put gloves on if you're worried about it or whatever. I'm not really worried about it. It comes off. E6000 dries clear. And I used to try to use super glue and all kinds of other things, and they all had like a film to it. So if it got on my banding at all, you could see it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep kind of touching it until I can get it to stay on its own. E6000 is a slow dry, so it's going to take a few hours for this to actually harden all the way up. But you can start placing it, because it will congeal a little bit, and you can start placing it so you can set it down without a clamp.